What's up, guys? So I wanted to show you a quick vid because I know some of my players that I train have the GPS vests, and just wanted to do a little overview of how to sort of find the readings from them. There's obviously lots of good things on them. There's some things that you probably won't use as well on the GPS vests, and some people don't really know how to use them. There's conversations I've had with players that I train about using them as a good tool for yourself, and I'll sort of go over what I mean by that in this little video, if you like. You can see on the screen recording, I'll switch between, because my gamer tracker does first half, second half. So you can see on the screen my first half home game against Brentwood. You can see the total distance, 4.36 kilometers. Hard running is 532 meters, so 532 meters, top speed 8.6, and 35 hard running efforts, so it's like sprints, and the intensity in work rate is 87.3. So there's obviously some variations in different vests. You may get loads on yours. This is an older vest, so it doesn't have the 2D load, impacts, red zones, heart rate, etc. So you may get different variations on some vests, but I just wanted to sort of show you how you can, if you've got one of these vests, how you can use it as a tool, but also how you can use it to implement your training, especially over periods like now in the UK. We've just come out of a second lockdown, and some younger players will have had a week last week of maybe their first training session back with their clubs after the month off lockdown for lockdown 2. But you also are going to have now where you're going to have a bit of a weird period where you'll go back and play matches for like a week or 2 weeks, and then there's the Christmas period, and then you're off again for another 2 weeks, and then you're back into games again. So it sort of disrupts now the flow of how you would have gone back into training after this second lockdown. So players that have the vests, or players that maybe borrow a vest off clubs, or if they have them, try and use your detail from your games readings to implement into your training, and I'll show you what I mean by that as well. So just having a look, I'll scroll down and you can see, so just looking at the metrics of, say, like the first half, how it works is you'll see as I hover over, there's variations. Obviously, zone 1, you could call it very slow movement, walk in, very slow pace, into zone 2 here. Also, look at the variation, and again, like when I speak to players that maybe are doing stuff over the summer or breaks, they talk about doing just like pitch sprints and stuff like that, and that has their place for certain base fitness and things like that. But when I chat to players, and what I do in terms of my one-to-ones is trying to keep players sharp and trying to make sure they're maintaining their game-specific fitness. And if you have a look at the GPS vest here, as you hover over the screen, there's 40 meters of zone 1 into a 43 meter into zone 2, and then a zone 3 pace is 24 meters. And then there's 6 meters zone 4 into 6 meters zone 5, and then a sprint essentially 20 meters. And this is going to sort of build into the video. And as you can see across the bottom here, it's 55% first half. Remember, this is only the first half. 55% of that is spent in a zone 1, so very slow walking, assessing the game. And then a zone 2, so slow sort of jog, nothing crazy. And then a zone 3 is, probably around a 45, 50% pace. And then zone 4, you're looking at 50 to 60, 70 to 80, and then around 80 to 90, 95% zone 6 sprinting. But if you just check here, you can look at 3% of my 45-minute segment, if you like, is only sprinting. And also the elements are, if we go just on the reds here, so we're looking at 20 meters distant is a sprint, another 22 meters, a 9 meters, a 14, a 6 meter, a 1, a couple of ones here, a 19 meter, 7, and then a 25. So the longest sprint in that particular game was a 25 meter sprint. You'll see there's hard running as well, so the pre-sprint, Maybe that's speed before you're getting into a full sprint, so maybe a recovery run following someone and then a ball over the top into a sprint. That's 28 meters. But again, a lot of these zone 5s are very short, and then into that sprint motion. So if you can see here, the 25 meters is the furthest sprint that I did in the first half. Now, if I'm looking at having that break over the Christmas period, but wanting to train and keep my base fitness up and my match sharpness and realism up, I'm going to implement things and structures into my specific session. And what I mean by that is, I can see here throughout the workload, so 4.3k or whatever it is, 4.3k for that first half. At any one point, I've only actually done 25 meters max sprint. So when I'm looking at my training, if that was my last game before the Christmas period, I'm not necessarily going to look to do full pitch sprints. So I'm not going to look to do 100 meter sprints, 80 meter sprints. I'm going to be looking to keep it short and sharp and get to that max sprint of around 30 meters, say. And obviously with variant workloads, and as you can see here on this chart, you're looking at a lot of distant zone 1, zone 2, and then a bigger zone 3, slow zone 4s, and then it jumps into the hard running and the sprinting, so the zone 5, zone 6, and it's very short and sharp. So I'll get into the training and a few things on that as well, but I just wanted to show you. Again, that's just the heat map for this. That's the first half. So if we were looking at it, 4.36, hard running, 532 meters in that first half of hard running, 35 efforts of hard running. So you're looking at 35 efforts of either sprinting or hard running, so zone 5, zone 6. So again, when you're looking at your training elements, you're looking at building in at least 35 efforts of hard running. So you can do that in blocks of 5, blocks of 6, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. If we just move to the second half, you'll notice again, same game, home versus Brentwood, 4.1, so slightly less covered distance for the second half, but you'll see here more hard running, slightly lower top speed, but more hard running efforts as well. But the work rate, I think, is slightly less. I think it was 87 in the other one. So again, you can see there's different variations and variants. But one thing to notice as well is if there's more hard running in the second half, efforts and distance covered, you need to make sure you're at a fitness where you can maintain, if that's your position, obviously, that distant running, short, sharp sprints, the recovery loads at the end of matches. It may be like an 85th minute recovery run from a corner where the team weren't set up and you've had to make a 60-70 meter sprint 1v1 and make a tackle. So you need to maintain that. So this for me is where building that into your training comes into it. So making sure you can maintain the amount of hard running. But again, if you notice the amount of hard running, if you could imagine doing 41 pitch sprints, that's going to be very unrealistic for a lot of people. And again, it's not specific to your needs for football. So I'll show you what I mean in terms of the training, the variants as well. I've got a little PowerPoint. So if we scroll down, again, you'll see these graphs of sort of zone 1s, the blue, zone 2, 3, zone 3 in the green. But again, if you move across, so a 2 meter sprint into a 5, then a 13, then a 20, a 23 here. I'm not going to bother going across all of them. There's a longer one here at the end. So this is very at the end of the game. And you'll see there it's a 43 metre. So that could have been a sprint to try and get a goal towards the end. It could have been a recovery run. I can't necessarily remember. But 43 metre. So again, you can incorporate one or two of those ones into your training as well. But again, if you have a look, again, it's similar to the first half, 56% in zone 1. So you're looking at a walking pace. You're looking at, a slow jog pace, assessing the game, thinking about your next move, where the ball's going to be next, where the position of the other team are. Can I pick up my movement in certain areas? Again, 14% zone 2. It goes down and down and down and down. 5%, so it's more percentage. I think it was 3% in zone 6 first half, but now 5% zone 6. So again, if you can get these into your training, it's going to help you massively. Again, that's just a heat map and a hard running and speed elements for it as well. So again, with your training, don't just look at just straight sprints, because as you can see on the graphs, that there's lots of meters, 59 meters here of walking pace, 21 meters slightly slower jog, and then we build it up 15 meters, then 12 meters, at 70%, and then you're looking at a 6 and then a 10 meters. So you're really looking at a 16 meter in this one segment of like a sprint, if you like. 6 meters hard running, 10 meters of a sprint. So you can look at, if you're looking at here, that's probably about 100 meters total, but 60 meters of it is looking at a walking pace. So building this into your practice and training for your different positions is going to be key. And I'm just going to touch on that now. So again, just one thing to speak about. So that game was around 8.5 kilometers coverage. If you're looking to try and build a training session and get similar numbers, so let's just say I want to go and do a training session and get around, 8K on the training session or 7K on the training session, and you want to get it close to these segments, so whether you want to get your sprinting up to 9 meters on sprints, hard running 24, if you want to do a 49 meter run, I'm going to show you what I mean in terms of building your training into that and using this as a tool. Remember, all of these nice little gadgets, they're nice to have, but if you don't know how to use it and implement it into your practice or your training or your methodology, then it's a good tool, but it's wasted at the same time. So hopefully I can break down a little element to help you use the GPS vest. Like I say, they're a very good purchase if you know how to use them as well. And I'm just going to touch on later on in the video in not getting caught up on the vests themselves, because they are very misleading in terms of the data, and I'll talk about that later. And it's not about the company or the brand, it's just them as a tool, and again I'll talk about that. So here's the little training element we'll get into. Again, I've just drawn it out here. We've got the GPS training ideas for match sharpness and realism. So as you saw in the first half, zone 6 was the sprinting, so the red. That was the first half versus Brentwood, 125 meters sprint total. So throughout the whole of that first half, I only covered 125 meters worth of sprinting. When you look at it like that, it doesn't seem like a lot, but like you saw in the clips, there was 10 meters, 6 meters, 1 meter, 22 meters, 25 meters, all small increments of sprints. But it's just thinking about trying to build that into your training zones for your matches and your training variables. So here, second half against Brentwood was more sprinting. So it was 194 meters sprint total. So, much more than the first half. And like I spoke about, you need to try and incorporate training that's going to keep you fit towards the end of the game. There's no good being able to burn out first half and then, you can only get to a jog second half. That's where you're going to have potential substitutions coming into play, especially if you're a winger or a fullback and they bring on someone who's fresh, and let's just say that they're athletic and they can run you and you can't keep up. So, building that into your play as well. Again, first half top speed, 8.6. I'm not too fussed about the top speeds. They're not really something that I look at, to be honest, with the vests. They're, again, something handy to have on there, but they're not necessarily massive. They are a good tool, though, in terms of recovery, let's just say from injuries, say hamstring, groins, calf, all of those sorts of injuries. They are a good marker to see if you can get back to that and use that, but nothing crazy. So I don't get too caught up on that. Again, 35 hard running efforts, sprints, first half, 41 second half, average covered. That particular game was the number 10 role. Here, down the bottom is just, again, I was playing number 10 that role, usually play on the wing. So here is just something that I would personally probably use in my own training methods to get myself back to being able to do that amount of running in short, sharp spaces. So down the bottom here is a little, I know there's a lot of arrows. The black arrows, by the way, are for the runs. And you can see by these black arrows, I've got some writing. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute, but if we can follow on the screen. So I'll start here down the bottom. Play a first pass in between a gate, a coned gate, or whatever you've got, or a mini goal. Play that pass, so it's a little jog towards the ball. Play the pass through the gate. And then from that position where I played that pass, I would then position another ball 18 meters ahead of me, so diagonally, and I would sprint to that ball or run, hard running, totally up to you. Then you dribble. Here's your little line. You dribble. This is a mannequin or player or another cone or whatever you've got. And then I'd get round it, and then I'd play a cross into the box. So I would potentially do that maybe, let's say, 5 times. And then after I've crossed, that's a slow little jog. That's my recovery. So I'm looking at between there and there, I'm looking at about 22 meters from there. So it could be about 4 meters away there. And then you sprint. And then here's just nice and gentle. And then you get a cross in. Okay, so I could look at about 22 meters worth of sprinting. I could do that 5 times. So you're looking at, again, you can see how quickly you start getting closer to this number, okay, with the sprint totals. So if I'm doing that 5 times, I'm then creeping up closer to this number. And again, just to change it up, I could do that exact sequence. So a little jog, 4 meters, pass into here. It could be a nice little accurate pass. You can move these further back. Looking at the passing and the accuracy, that could be a switch play into a midfielder in a game. Then you're playing that run again. So you're making that run again, rather. So the 18 meters diagonal. So again, that could be you've made a run into space. The midfielder's seen you played that ball out, but for the purpose of you working on your own, it's just the ball placement in that space. Then you're going to dribble, and then again you're going to play another cross. So again, you can see how now as positional, I'm looking at an accurate pass into midfield, creating that run, creating space for my teammates or myself, getting on the ball, being positive, variation again, maybe a bit of skill here. And then looking at a type of cross. Now, you may not be interested in the cross, but obviously here we're working on that as well. So it's another element into your game. Again, if it's positional. Then there's, after the cross, I'm adding in a 20-meter sprint recovery run. Okay, so imagine I've played that cross, but it's gone into the keeper's hands and they've thrown it out to a lazy winger down here, down the bottom. I've then now had to sprint and get back in. So instead of it being a 22-meter run now, essentially the whole block from here, pass, sprint, beat your man, cross, keepers catch it, thrown it out, and then I've had to make that recovery run. I'm looking at now 44-odd meters of work for just that one element. And again, I can do that times 5. So I'm getting closer again to these marks, my sprint totals. Okay, so I'm building that into my element. Now, if I, for instance, do just the last one, like I said, so a 4-meter a slow run, pass into the goal, then a 18-meter diagonal sprint, run, cross, and then that recovery run. Okay, if I do that, it's around 44 meters. If I do that 5 times, I'm getting closer to this sprint total number for the whole second half. Now, all I need to do is just that once. And then the rest of my training elements may be a lot of passing patterns, maybe a little bouncing into a rebounder, a wall, a skills net, and getting it, and then dribbling in and out of cones, short, sharp stuff, getting touches on, working 1v1 shots at goal, because you're going to be covering that distance like you were in the game. So, like you were in the game, again, if you have a look at these zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 is very slow pace. Could be the dribbling in and out of the cones, a bit of turning, getting pass variations working. As you'll see here, that's going to be this number. But what I've just shown you on the PowerPoint is more so looking towards zone 5, zone 6s. Again, positionally is going to change and it's going to vary, but looking to work towards zone 5, zone 6s. Just from that. So the other stuff that doesn't really test you, that's going to be fine because you're going to be in this zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 area. Potentially zone 4 could come into the one that I showed you. Depends how hard you're obviously going to work. But you're looking at the other stuff, the other train elements. You're going to get a lot of that out of the 1, 2, 3, potentially 4 zones. The stuff I'm showing you here is exactly what we're looking for, zone 5, zone 6. And again, other variations to this for that specific player could be you've then played a pass into the gate or the goal, whatever you're going to call it, and you're going to use. Then you're going to play a 15-meter. You're going to make a 15-meter diagonal run around a flat pole or something on the floor. Then there's going to be ball here. You're going to drive towards this area, 18-yard box on the angle, cut inside and shoot. Again, it's variation. As a winger, you may drive inside with the ball some games. Again, and as you can start to see here, it's around 30-odd meters just for that one element. And again, 30-odd meters, you do that 5 times. Again, you're looking around these numbers. So you're looking to try and build that up within your sprints. So again, you've just got to try and think about what you're going to try and use to try and get to these numbers, how you can make it realistic, how again we can get close to these numbers. So like I was saying earlier, if I'm going to do that first run of 18 across and a slow jog back, I could do that 5 times, and then I could maybe reduce the meters to, let's just say, 10 meters. So I'm going slightly closer now. But then I'm still looking to do it 5 times. So that's 10 efforts, and I'm getting closer to this one. It may be that I want to do the last one where I'm sprinting, crossing, and then sprinting back on the recovery, getting close to down here. That's, another 35 meters or so if I've shortened it, and I do that 5 or 6 times. And again, you can start to see that the efforts in the sprints are getting closer to these efforts. Because what we want to try and do is you want to be able to do the short, sharp runs at sprints, but be able to maintain the efforts as well, but that are realistic to your position in the gameplay. All right, rather than just going up and down the pitch, up and down, up and down, up and down. You've got the variation of beating your man crossing, and in a game it gets cleared or it gets cut out, or the keeper catches the ball and throws it out, and you've got to make that recovery run. So these elements are what I like to build into the players that I train, but also myself specifically as well, for when we have time off, Christmas breaks, or obviously lockdowns, essentially what we've having recently. Now, if you're someone who's a defender, now again, you just got to be creative and clever with it. So it may be in the sense that you're going to be a defender that likes to pass the ball into a specific channel and maybe drive up, because you might be a commanding defender that likes your back 3, back 5, back 4, whatever you're playing, to squeeze up once you've played a ball into space down the channel. So again, you would probably potentially play some gates or make some gates. Let's get a triangle. You would make some gates over here. Make some gates like so. And then literally all you would do is then, as that player, let's get a triangle. Let's go. Boom. You'd play into the gate. So the bottom of the triangle is you'd play into the gate, and then you'd literally, let's make a double. You would then squeeze up. Let's change the colour of this. Let's change that to black. And let's just say you're going to, let's add a text box in here, shall we? And let's just say that is going to be 15 meters. And then that's all you're going to do is you're going to squeeze up 15 meters, bring it closer so you can see. All you're going to do is then from here to there, you're going to squeeze up that 15 meters once you've played that pass. But you do it at pace. So you do it at like a hard running tempo. Now, again, let's just to make it a bit more specific for a defender, shall we? Right-sided centre-half or a right-back. Let's just say you've played a ball out wide. It's not a great ball. So then what ends up happening, let's see if we can have like a squiggle on it. Yes. Boom. Let's just do that for the sake of it. Boom, boom, boom. Someone is now played that ball down your channel. So this arrow here, let's give it orange, is now a ball down your channel. So you're going to be, let's get a shape. Let's just get small that. You're going to be there. I know it's a dot. But you're going to be by that dot here. You've played the pass out there. But then, let's not confuse it too much. I'll give you a big one. You would then put a ball. So because again, let's just say this is for argument's sake, it's just one person working on their own. You create a gate, pass into the gate, and then let's just say it's intercepted. Defenders then clipped it over, so the orange little arrow or little curve is then clipped over into that space where this ball is. And now let's find a black arrow again. And now you're creating, let's just say a diagonal run. And let's just say that is what, a 20-meter sprint, and this is like this would be a 1v1, wouldn't it? Let's try and do that there. Make it a bit flatter. 20 meters. And let's bring that down, and let's make that black. This arrow. Don't know why the colour doesn't want to change. 20 meters. 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 20 We'll leave it at that. But yeah, so you're now then essentially making that run diagonal, is this blue one. But you're essentially, so you're starting here, you're then playing the ball through the triangle, gate, whatever you want to call it, goal. You're still stood there, but then you're anticipating someone knocking it over the top, and it's that little run where a striker peels their run, blind side of the shoulder, runs into that channel, and you've got to chase them. So again, you can start to see now, if you build these two together, you're looking at a bang, pass into that gate, then squeeze up 15 metres. Right, now that I've got to then turn and then sprint back to this ball. And then again, you could progress it. You could drive with this ball. Let's create another shape, shall we? Hopefully we can find the black. And then when you're at this ball, yes, we're here. Then there's the black. And then you can drive up, again, another, let's just say 10 metres with the ball before you play a pass like you would do in a game. So let's get a text box here. Hopefully that doesn't go too crazy. Yeah, so there. So again, you can start to see, I'll move this arrow slightly there. You can start to see how you then create a game-specific real match sharpness for your position rather than just going over the field and doing runs. And these are the types of things and drills that I put in for my one-to-ones. I really sit down and think about the personnel, the positional sense that the player I'm training needs. And obviously you work on a technical aspect, but when you're looking at the breaks and the fitness that they need to do to carry on over the Christmas period, then obviously that comes into the equation, and then you as a coach need to try and use the information again and the tools that you have disposable to you. And these are the types of things that I have when I work with my players, and especially the ones that have the vest, because they've got the data there, and I can just go, okay, send me the data, let me have a look at it, and tell me the types of positions that you are playing that game, and then I will build that into the next session. And again, down here you'll see obviously the wingers type of positional, and then we're looking at here is the defending types. Again, you can change everything and be creative with it as long as you're getting, remember, if you've got the data to these types, especially the fitness elements, that type, so that's first and second half. So you're looking at around, 300 odd meters total of sprints. And remember at the top it was 530 odd of hard running, but these are the sprints, so you're looking at about 300 odd meters sprint total per game. That was for that one game. First half 35 efforts, second half 41. So you're looking at around 76 efforts. Now, if you're doing a training session and you're doing these efforts down here and you're doing, 3 sets of 5, that's 15 of the first one with the cross without the sprinting on the way back. And then you're doing 3 sets of 5 on the recovery run. That's another, obviously, 15, so that's 30. And then let's just say you're doing 3 lots of 5 with the 30 meters of coming inside, cutting inside and burying it. Again, you're looking at another lot of, that will be definitely taken care of in terms of the sprint total, for sure. And then you're looking at the efforts of obviously around 71, and I'm getting close to around, 45 there of that. And then again, as you can see, you can make it shorter and shorter and shorter. And then you're looking at variations. I might then just do a straight, simple ball here, drive inside 50 meters, cut inside, bury it. Or a bit of skill, set up a cone, a mannequin, a pole, 3 yards away, drive with the ball, bit of skill, shift one way, finish, sprint back to the initial ball. So I may be doing like a 5 meter sprint total on the way back after I've had my skill and shot. So I'm sprinting back to the ball. Again, like you saw here, there's little increments. You'll see, look, 2 meter sprints, 5 meter sprints, 6 meters, 8 meters, 10. And they're very occurring. You can see here, like 12 meters, 9 meters, 4 meters. So you need to implement that into your training as well to make that essential for when you're playing matches and you need a little burst of pace and sprint off. Again, if you're a forward, let's think about it and be creative, shall we? So as a forward, it may be you're at the 18-yard box and you're going to set the ball, spin, make a little run on the shoulder, and then position a football so it's inside the box, of course. So you're using 2 balls for one. So you're driving out, maybe setting the ball into a small gate, which is only 5 yards away. And that could be like setting the number 10. It could be setting a midfielder, and then you're spinning into the 18-yard box and getting shots off. Again, there's visual learners, so there is some of you that might want this. Let's just use gates for the example. So let's just say, boom. Let's make a small gate there. Small gate here. Now, this gate in a game as a forward may be a number 10, maybe a midfielder. Now, the arrow that I'm going to play is at the bottom of this arrow is just going to be where the forward would be. And then the top of the arrow is just a little set pass. Let's use the orange as the set pass. That's the gate, obviously. The two triangles, or a midfielder, or a second striker who you're setting it to. Let's make this little curve as our curvy run, if you like. Boom, boom, boom. To make it a bit more realistic, let's put that ball there, because obviously that's where it would go. And then, boom. Let's put another ball about here. So you're setting there, boom, boom, and let's get our little sprint as a forward, and that one there, and then we'll change that to black. So you see here, the orange is the pass as the forward. So you've made a little run, you've set it. This here is your little curved run. Let's make it a bit more realistic by putting the ball over there. And then this black is a sprint. And let's just say this is, let's put a text box here. And let's just say you're only looking to do what? 10 meters. A 10-meter sprint, if that, really. Let's say 8. You know, short and sharp. And then across here, I haven't got goals, so I'm just going to put this flat line. Let's just say that's the goal. And then obviously this flat line. Got any other colours for that? We'll just use it as yellow. So this flat line is the goal. I'll put a text box there. Goal. So you can start to see how, for me as a coach and a trainer, I would look to implement the fitness element using the GPS vest. And like I said at the start, I'm now using it as a tool. I'm now using that tool as something that I can produce to create. Even you can see that I started off with here. Within this video, I've created just one element of something that could happen in a game. Okay, a position that could happen in a game. Now, you can start to see it's much more dynamic and it's much more beneficial for the player that I would train to use these parts of their game. So if it's a forward, it's here at the base, quick set into midfielder, spin. This would be much wider, by the way, so I would get them to spin into an area where they would run onto a ball, and then it would be a first time finish. Again, so then there's setting, concentrating on the way it's set. It could be a mini goal, it could be something that's close. So we're looking at the accuracy. Okay, if I'm working with them, I would then play it into their feet. But let's just say you're working on your own. You would then start with 2 balls, bang, set, spin. Second ball's the sprint, and then the third part of the drill is the shot at goal. And obviously, we're then focused on scoring goals as the forward as well. But you're implementing the fitness element rather than just straight sprinting. And these are how I think players could be a bit more beneficial in using the vests as well. Let's now just start to talk about the vests themselves. And you've heard me throughout this video say using the vests as a tool and not getting caught up on the vests. Here's a few examples, and these are all the vests no matter what you get. And mine, I love SPT, by the way. I bought that a while ago. I've had it. Again, it is a good investment. It is perfect for using it as a tool. And like I said, you can get great feedback in your performances, and then at the end of the season you can look at and scroll through all of these, total distance covered. When it comes to pre-season, you'll understand in terms again of hard running what you can do to get yourself sort of back to fitness, so when pre-season comes, you may be doing 20 of these in your pre-season to then get you to a level where you're like, oh, okay, I know in games that I'm doing around 41 first or second half. I want to do around 20 or so pre-season or pre-season. So then when you're going back to your club, you're not struggling with potential sprints that you may have to do in your games. So that's one good element. Again, the vests and not getting caught up on them is, for me, a prime thing that some people can easily get caught in the trap of. And this is what I mean. So, for example, I know this, for instance, only shows first half. So 4.1, and then you'll see it swap and change to 4.3. So, yeah, like I said, 8.4, say, 8.5 if you want to round it up. K's covered that game. Now, every game is going to be completely different on that stat. So the total distance covered, this stat, total running, this stat, total speed, hard running, and work rate and intensity. And now, again, this is where you've got to use the vest as a tool. You can easily become, and I've seen players do it and say it to me, you can easily become a little bit attached or addicted, whatever word you want to use for it, to the total distance, and get downbeat. One game I managed 10k, the second game I only managed 7k, I still played the whole 90 minutes. And this is what I mean, and this is what I'm going to talk about with you. Use it as a tool. This game, for instance, may have been an easier game for me. So, the distance covered may not have been as much as what I needed on one game where potentially our backs are against the wall. I'm having to do more recovery runs. The winger may not have been as up and down, so I may not have had to track him as much. I may have been getting a bit more forward than what he was. So then for me, the distance covered total may not be as much because the other game that I played, I had to make more recovery runs. So you can then start to see if I'm making more recovery runs, the 30, 40 metre runs extra per game. If I'm doing 70 odd runs of hard effort runs per game, if I'm only having to do 20 of them in one first half and 30 of them in a second half, you can already see that my total distance is going to come down. And then my hard running is going to come down. My top speed is going to come down if I'm playing a team that is easier and I don't need to sprint as much. Okay, so this is where you've got to use the GPS as a tool in your advantage. And again, like I'm going to say it, I love it as a tool and I love it for what they are, but don't get caught up on it. Every game is going to be completely different. For me, you've got to use it as a few elements. If you're injured and you've got data there, top speed's a great one, you know. So your top speed, if you're just come back from injury, let's just say it is a groin or a hamstring injury or a muscular injury, and you are a relatively quick player, but for instance, you've got back to training or you don't quite feel there yet, put your GPS vest on. And when you're training, because it's so hard to replicate a straight sprint when there's nothing really there, so put it on in your training sessions. Try and get into scenarios and elements where you're sprinting. And it doesn't need to be for 30, 40 metres. It could be for 10, 15 metres because these will clock them as long as you're obviously getting to that speed. And then try and go as fast as obviously you can with the vests on. And then use that data to see how close you're then getting to your previous game or your max top speed, etc. And then you've got a base element to work from. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm not too far off. It may have been 8.4, or it may have been 7.8, or it may have been 6.5. Okay, I've got a bit to go, or I'm getting back to a bit of sharpness, and you feel it. You can use the data for that. Perfect, prime example. Again, the training elements, you may have only just got back to training, and the training elements are going to be different to a game elements of hard running efforts, so there won't be anywhere near as much. Well, let's just say it's your first game back and the hard running totals 5-3-2 for that game, and you're playing a team that really has possession and you're having to do a lot, and the wingers are pushing on as well, so you know it's going to be a game where the hard running is going to be a lot. But let's just say you only get to 400. You know, or you last 70 minutes and you're only on about 300 odd. Again, you can use these as a tool. It's the tool to use it as is perfect. So you're building a whole range of elements to put into your training and practice to push you forwards. And that's why I'm saying use this as a tool. Don't get caught up on the total distance. Don't get caught up of, I've done less last week, I need to make it up. Or I'm not doing anywhere near as much hard running as what I was. Your position may have changed. For me, this Brentwood game, I played in a 10. There's other games where I've worn the vest and I've been a winger and a wing back. So, of course, you're going to have different elements. You're not going to have potentially as much work rate in, let's just say, a centre-half position as what I would in a centre-mid or a number 10 or even a wing-back's position. Okay, you're going to have many more little turns and short sprints. So these here, you're going to have a lot of these ones of 14s and a lot of 8s. Much more like hard running for, let's just say, 20 meters and then 10-meter sprint increments, 19. So a lot of like turning and sprinting, a lot of balls in a channel potentially, depending on the level you're at, and chasing players and then tackling. So again, it's just building that up and understanding and knowing that that's fine, and using that as that. So yeah, so for me, that the take from this is use a GPS as a tool. I said it 1,000 times. Use it as a tool. Use the training elements for what you want to get out of it. So for instance, if you've got that period over Christmas and you've got the data, whatever your data is, break it down like, potentially like I have in the PowerPoint. So break it down, for whatever you want. Sprints, first half, second half, or totally up to you. Efforts, top speed. Again, if you're interested in that, games covered. Put your position down and then thinking about what you can then do. So the actual training session is based off my position. So I'm getting crosses in the box as a winger or as a forward player. I'm driving inside, getting shots off. I'm making recovery sprints. I'm playing passes into a gate, goal, someone's feet if you're going to do it with a couple of people. And then you're looking to add those sprint elements and the runs and the hard runs into your training. So then when you go back to match play, it's easier for this to take care of itself and for you to not necessarily feel like you're lagging as well. That's what happens. A lot of players, it's like if you don't use it, you lose it. So you get to this base fitness, or after pre-season you play a few games and you get fit, and then what happens, especially now with the lockdowns, is you have a bit of a month lockdown and players don't necessarily do stuff because they're working extra, or just other things take care of themselves. And then what ends up happening is you go back to playing games and you can't get back into the swing of things because the fitness that was there, you haven't used it, so you lose it. So rather than getting caught up on going, I have to do, these runs, these long runs, build something into your sessions where they're game specific, that they've got a purpose to them, but you're going to get the sharpness from your specific position in a game that you would play. All right, I'm not necessarily going to go and do lots of these defending ones if I'm playing in a number 10 role. It's not going to be useful for me. Okay, if I'm a winger, I want to be looking at getting crosses in the box, driving inside, bouncing 1-2s off people. If I obviously can't do that because I'm training on my own, these are the types of things that I'm looking to build in to my session. And again, for me as a coach, these are the things that I do with the players that when we've got these periods that are looking to keep the sharpness and match realism. All right, so use the tool, the vests, for those tools, pre-season or pre-season for your guides. Use them as tools to build up what you want to get out of it, but don't get hung up on the distance and stuff like that, because like I said, every game is going to be different. Some teams are going to have a lot of possession. You're going to have to be chasing. So this distance here, total distance, I know it was about 8 kilometers a game, is going to be different to a team where you've got a lot of possession and you're not having to necessarily make a lot of hard runs, okay, or you don't necessarily need to be sprinting a lot of the games. All right, you might not need to cross halfway line defensively for most parts of the game, apart from when you may be coming back from corners. So again, these vests are great. I mean, I use mine a lot of the time. SPT are great. I like them. Don't necessarily like the new layout, if I'm honest. You used to be able to have all of your drills on here, but I think it's like a premium now you have to pay. So that's one thing I don't necessarily like. Or it may just be you get it with the new vest because this is an older vest. Nevertheless, SPT are great. I like the data. Again, like I said, this is perfect for me. Because all I do is I take this data and use it for me as a coach and when I train personally and create sessions like this that are going to help. So they're a perfect match. And if you're someone who wants to get it, look at understanding the data rather than just getting caught up on these little things. Oh my God, I managed to get, 10K this game or 12K or wherever it is. Oh my God, I managed to do X amount of hard runs and top speeds, and then getting yourself downbeat following week. Use it as a tool. Try and implement it into parts of your training when you haven't got matches or you've got breaks, and then just build it from there. That's what I would say. again, if anyone wants to message me regarding how they can and get the detail or the data and use it to implement training sessions like this, totally open. Look at our Fit for Tech page on Instagram, Fit for Tech 22, Facebook, and yeah, just message us directly. All of these things, again, it's just about being creative with it. But anyone who wants to message me regarding how to use the data, perfectly here to help. And hopefully this video has helped you guys understand what you can do with the vests as well, in terms of implementing these type of sessions to try and give you that element into your training as well. Whether you're a coach, you looking to use that data, or whether you're a player yourself, looking to try and build sessions in over the Christmas period or whatever it is. All right. So hopefully this is useful for you. If it has been, just drop us a little comment, like I said, or just give us a little message if you're someone who wants a little bit more detail. All right. Take care. Peace.